Hello, Dane Rose here, and thanks for all of you that are joining me on this year journey. This is week number 14, and I want to begin by introducing you to a phenomena that goes on in our brain and its implications for relationships, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with other people, our perspective on how well things are going, and our perspective on how much we feel liked, accepted, loved, etc. So the first thing to be aware of is that focus equals impact. And here's a great way of seeing that. So at this distance, this hand, maybe before I mention it, has about 10% impact because of its overall mass. But when I zoom in on it, now it has 100% impact. Meaning this is what you see because you focus the lens on this area. So what I want to suggest is that there's a shitload of pain, there's a shitload of shame, there's a shitload of fear, there's a shitload of injustice, there's a shitload of love, there's a shitload of forgiveness. There's a shitload of pleasure. There's a shitload of progress and beauty. And the question is, how does it seem? Does it seem like everything's beautiful? Does it seem like everything's painful? Does it seem da-da-da? And I'm going to suggest that one of the factors in this is focus, because it's all around us. And see, the thing is, we're this little individual, and then there's the world. Now, in the world at any given moment, there's a war, there's someone being raped, there's people committing suicide, there's people being burned alive, there's people starving to death, there's people starting a new business, there's people getting married, there's all these different blocks of people. And these blocks of people and these phenomena are all bigger than you and I. Meaning, if we go to Rwanda during a genocide, our whole world is genocide. If we're surfing in California, the whole world for people in Rwanda is still genocide. But our whole world is fun and games. Or maybe it's not. Maybe we're surfing on the beach in California, and the entirety of our focus is not on the beautiful waves, is not on the beautiful weather, is not on how we're on the board, it's not on the amazing phenomena that we are the only mammal in Earth's history to come up with the idea that the best thing to do with our time is put on a wetsuit or paddle out into water, wait for these weird moving water movements and try and balance on top of one. What a crazy idea, So it's not on that. It's on my ex and what she's doing with that other guy. It's the girl I'm interested and how she's looking at that other surfer dude. So I'm not even, I'm not in heaven or anything on the beach or whatever. I'm, what did that look like? And so it's all about focus when it comes to well-being. Now, this is not a simplistic thing, because it also says that all these experiences are happening on the planet. And if you're called to go to a place where someone's being raped and turn that around, or do something in social work, etc., that lowers the rape statistic for a community, or that increases the joy of a profoundly grieving community, or that helps a person on the edge of suicide to improve their life to a point that it's worth living. It's not about saying anything. These things are all happening. They're happening in our lives. They're happening around the world. But it's important to be aware of perspective and how it works for this next exercise. So the first thing to know is not only does focus equal impact, but that our brains are hardwired into a fulcrum that looks like this. So if anything is on this side of the scale, it's negative. If anything is on this side of the scale, it's positive. Now you'll notice that the triangle of this seesaw is not in the middle. It's not at the 2.5 point here. It's at the 1 point. 4 over here, 1 here. So this is a 5-bar scale. And this is incredibly important to be aware of, because it explains why, when 95% of our life is going very, very well, we can feel like dying. Because the focus is off. Meaning the positive gets weighted 1. The negative gets weighted 5. Now, this comes out of John Gottman's work on sustainable marriages. He's one of the few people to gather statistics over 40 decades that allows him to predict within 90% accuracy, within 15 minutes, whether a couple will survive as a married couple. Great research. Thank you, John. And one of the things that he says is that if in that 15 minutes the couple sends negative vibes at, let's say, a 50-50 ratio, they're doomed. If a couple says one nice thing and one bad thing about the partner, that is a failed relationship. The relationships that make it give 5 times more praise, acknowledgement, security than criticism or negative message. Now, why 5 to 1? Meaning, because you'd think, if it were a rational and objective scale, that it would be an even relationship if I said something bad about you and said something good about you. They weigh the same. And if I say 2 good things about you and 1 bad, you'd think, no brainer, that's 50% return on investment. That's a sustainable relationship. But it's not the case. You have to say at least 5 nice things about your partner to offset every negative thing you say. Tell your partner her hair's off and looks a bit ugly, and you say, by the way, you did a good job at school, you good job on the thing, you're driving really great, thanks for the wonderful dinner, delicious food. You haven't broken even yet in the brain. You've got to get to 5 or 6 positives before it has the impact of one negative. And the reason is focus. The brain has a telescope when it comes to a negative item that amplifies the negative at least 5 times. It's called rumination. Someone says, well, who's the arrival from the thrift store today? Well, someone isn't dressing very well. I guess we can't all be blah, blah, blah. Goes off on her way. What did she mean by that? What? So is my tie? I got a thing? The brain goes into high alert. A stupid person who obviously enjoys upsetting you has said something specifically to upset you. What is the big deal? Everyone else in the party is happy to see you. But it is a big deal. This does not get looked at with the naked eye. It gets looked at with a telescope. A telescope with a 5 to 10 to 15-fold magnification. You go over every item of clothing. You compare this, you compare that, you come up with witty comebacks. You do this, you do this. This is a major ordeal because the brain is not balanced. If it were balanced, so-and-so makes the hostile remark, you turn to your partner and say, do I really look like I've come from a thrift store? No, don't pay any attention to her. You look fabulous. See, a balanced brain would take criticism over here, positive over here, and feel exactly the same. But this is not what we do. We say they're just saying that, and we dismiss the positive. We go back to ruminating about the negative. We blow it up, 5 to 100 times. And the entire night, there is no enjoyment of the favorite song. There is no enjoyment of fine champagne served in cristal. There is no pleasure in the $200 silk scarf. Nothing. Because this has blown it out of proportion. So if we understand that focus equals impact and the brain is weighted 500% to 100%, or 5 to 1 towards the negative minimum, we realize we've got a problem. And the problem comes from the fact that this is a double negative, meaning, so someone makes a negative comment about us, we pay at least 5 times more attention than the positive comment. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the culture of profound helpfulness that we have co-created. We are in a culture where you give a compliment, oh, you're just saying that, no big deal, da-da-da-da-da. Where you look around the room and everything's perfect, but the sun is a little bit off on the blinds, right? Arrive at the event, everything's where the house is still standing, there's no earthquake, it's not on fire, the food is going on, but there's a little bit of sunlight coming in too brightly in one window. So what do? We go to the host, being helpful, and say, excuse me, you need to know the curtain needs to be lowered on this window. And that's the only thing we say, because we don't want to waste their time by saying, gee, the house is still standing, the food is delicious, I had the best parking place, I enjoy your garden, this flower as I walked up was magnificent. There are 100 things that are amazing. But in a scarcity time culture, what we prioritize is the one thing that's going wrong. So, 100 things going well, one thing going wrong. Brain processes it 5-to-1 negative. And then you have the next helpful guest arrive, and just thought I'd let you know the cat looks like she may be able to get out of her pen. Just thought I'd let you know the fish might be a little off. You get the picture. You've now got 15-to-1. And then someone else comes and says, the party is wonderful. Hundreds of things are going great. Yeah, it's wonderful, great. But I've got to fix the cat and lower the blinds. And then we wonder why we have flustered hosts. So here's the message that John teaches us. We've got to use discipline to interrupt the brain's imbalance. Now, of course, we have to be grateful for this huge imbalanced brain, because what the brain is saying is, if I want to live tomorrow, I've got to spot the threat that could kill me. Makes sense? So anytime there's a threat, I'm going to zoom in until I fully understand it, and then I'll zoom back out again. Anytime there's something good, no harm there. So we'll just say thank you, big next, thank you next, thank you next. Ooh. My shirt doesn't look quite right. What's wrong? What's wrong? Okay, that. So that's what the brain is up to. It's trying to keep us alive. It hasn't gotten the message. 100,000 years ago, we were up in the tree. Brains don't evolve that quickly. So 100,000 years ago, we're monkeys up in the trees, and if there's a problem, it's a big deal. If someone squeaks, eek! Have they seen a snake? Have they seen a tiger? Otherwise, monkeys don't send the alarm. Monkeys save the alarm for something life-threatening. Human beings save the alarm for too much light coming in the window. The cat might do this with a cage. Not life-threatening, but the brain is still processing it as the same thing. Eek, something's wrong, normally means something serious. The brain hasn't caught up to the fact that what is a big deal to us is running out of Pinot Noir. I mean, this is a life-threatening event. What are we going to do? And so it's processing it at the level of snakes, tigers, rocks, forest fires, and it's out of line. Now, we're not going to be able to readjust the brain's set point. Not in our lifetime. That's the way the brain is built. And it got us this far in mammalian evolution. But it means that we have got to consciously flood ourselves with positivity at a 500% ratio to the negativity. So here's a little technique that I absolutely love. It's called the art of appreciation. And it goes like this. End of a date, end of a visit. I teach my partners and friends how to do this ritual. And we basically spend 10 minutes at the end. And I have no doubt gotten little nods and looks and frowns and criticisms throughout the evening that let me know that there's 3 to 5 things that were not perfect for my guests. Maybe they were a bit uncomfortable. Maybe I talked too long when they wanted to go to the bathroom. And, my brain is, again, processing these as big deals. And so we go back and forth. I appreciate you for the way you listened so well to this comment. Thank you. I appreciate you for being on time for this evening. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. I appreciate you for the way that you held the pause. You didn't interrupt when I was in a really vulnerable state around that topic. Thank you. I appreciate you for remembering that I love cinnamon and adding that as a little bit of a garnish to the corn on the cob, and tomato gazpacho thing. That was a really fun. I haven't had that gazpacho just with a little bit of cinnamon mixed with the onion. It was very interesting. Thank you. I'm glad you remember. I'm glad you noticed. I did. I put cinnamon in just because I know how much you love cinnamon. I appreciate you for making time for this to be languorous. I mean, it's 1 a.m. I mean, it's winding down organically. There's been no rush. You've been present with me the whole time. Thank you. 10 minutes of this balances out the anxiety, lowers the cortisol. The eye contact increases oxytocin. It's a beautiful ending. It's a more sustainable relationship. So this is with others. But what if in this crazy busy world that's so advanced, nobody has time for each other, you can't find someone to do a ritual of appreciation with? And there's a couple of rules to this. Number one, nothing is too small. Number two, nothing gets taken for granted. Number three, you take turns. Number four, the only response, once you've let it into your body, not just your mind, is thank you. Not a spin off into some other topic about the Yankee game. No. Thank you. When you do your 10 minutes, good night, goodbye, you end on that high note. This is the ritual, the art of appreciation. Now, you can't find someone, or I'd say about a third of people say, oh, that sounds really weird. Well, would you mind trying it? It'll always be weird if you don't give it a try. What this culture teaches us is frankly very, very weird. But we get used to it. We do it over and over again, we get used to it. And typically, if someone tries it, it's a fun thing to get used to as opposed to a non-fun thing to get used to. So most people give it a try. 9 out of 10 will. And of those, 9 out of 10 will come to love it, and a number will love it immediately. So that's kind of the statistics I run into. But let's say you can't find that. Let's say you've heard a complaint from a client, valid complaint. You did 99 things right and one thing was off. Well, they complained about the one thing. And of course, you blew it up out of proportion. So you're feeling bad about yourself. Perfectly normal. This is an epidemic for this reason. It's not that most of you's wrong. It's not that you're doing most of it wrong. We're the kind of culture that if you smile and are nice 1,000 times, or 999 times out of 1,000, and one time you lose your temper, you're rude, you da-da-da-da-da-da-da, the people respond, say, I knew it. That is such a jerk. Now I know who the real them is. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. So let's say, 1 out of 1,000 times I behave like a jerk. 999 times I behave like an amazing, conscious human being. Which is the real me? 999 or the 1? See, this is again the bias towards the negative. That's a fake. That's a fake. He's really terrible. He just puts on a good face. What about the other way? What about that's a fake? Meaning he's really a great person. He just behaves negatively sometimes. But he's a great person. I mean, to look at it scientifically, you'd look at the statistic. And we don't take a garden that has 3 weeds in it and a gorgeous display and say, I found it. Now I know what this garden really is about. This garden is nothing but weeds. It's a complete facade. No, we say it's a 99% great garden with a few weeds in it. And so this bias towards the negative is really painful. And this is what we can do about it. We can actually write in the absence of being able to do this. I mean, it's harder to do with a client or a boss or something. But we can do it with ourselves. And here's how it works. What's your name? Dear so-and-so. Write yourself an email, write yourself a diary note. Dear so-and-so, I appreciate you for brushing your teeth this morning. Now remember, nothing's too small. Nothing gets taken for granted. What we're trying to do is our brain has us convinced that we're a piece of shit because we did 1, 2, or 3 things off today. The reality is, it is 1 to 3%. That's the reality. Now, we don't feel that way. We feel like our whole life is ruined. We are a terrible person. It's hopeless, da-da-da. And so what we're doing is we're counteracting the irrationality of the feeling that comes when we look at the negative through a telescope. And so we have to remind ourselves how much is going right. So thank you. I appreciate you for brushing your teeth, for brushing my teeth. It's a nice thing to do. Done it 10,000 times. You did it again and again. Well, I did, didn't I? Okay, thanks. I appreciate you for feeding me some food today. I appreciate you for having a body that's able to get out of bed if you have one. I appreciate you for dressing me. I appreciate you for taking me to a nice place. I love, this food, and you ordered me that food today. Thank you. I appreciate you for being on time for this appointment. Maybe you were on time for one, off on another, but I appreciate that you were on time for this one. I appreciate you for buying me some groceries. I appreciate you for parking the car without totaling it. I appreciate you for missing 10,000 cars today on the highway. I appreciate you for getting me a driver's license so that I could drive this car. I appreciate you paying for this car. I appreciate you for having a full tank so that I didn't run out of gas on the highway today. I appreciate you for having paid the electricity bill so I could turn on the switch. I appreciate you for having a bed. Some people don't have one. You gave me a bed. I appreciate you for calling that person and making them feel better. I appreciate you for being someone who smiles at strangers. I appreciate you for giving a tip. You didn't have to, but you gave a tip to this person. I appreciate you thanking this person so that they knew that their activity mattered. I appreciate you for cuddling with your girlfriend so she felt special. I appreciate you having a girlfriend so we can have the joy of cuddling. You go through and you start saying, wait a minute, wow, 95% of it is pretty darn amazing. I not only brushed my teeth, I brushed it with a Sonicare. Wow, I mean, 100,000 years ago we were in the trees. You know, this is a remarkable stuff, and our brain is just so good at blowing up the negative. We don't even get it. We have no idea. So this is the exercise. It has changed my life. It has changed many people in my life. And I'd love to hear if it changes yours. I expect it. For most of you, it'll feel a little strange. But it is rational, and it needs to be done. It needs to be done if you're to get a realistic picture. You're going to need to pack this positive side of the stuff. Well, actually, you're going to need to pack this really, really high to balance out the few negatives that are going to be there. They're going to be there. Even when most of it's positive, most of the time. Relative not to perfection. No. If you look through the lens of perfection, 99% of reality is trash. You know, it's like, this wasn't good enough. Why don't we have flying cars? You know, why did I have to have a line at the ATM, right? But when you look through the lens of, you know, amazement, they didn't have ATMs 100 years ago. They used to have to do this and IOUs and chicken. You know, this is a big deal. So note it down and do it enough that your conscious mind gets how good even the most miserable life, I mean, the brain is saying it's all going to hell, how good the most miserable of our lives really are in terms of real positive stuff happening because we've all cooperated to make them happen versus the negative. Thanks for watching, and good luck.